Hello, Mbuyi.
Jani.
I'm good. You are the color of the day.
Orange. Power
Nice
to
one.
orange.
Nice one. All right. Playing in the background, I've chosen some music from our local artist, Soldier Soul. Sledger Soul, my bad. Sledger Soul has given us music. It is an Afro soul called No More Pain. It is a Christian soulful music that has prayer for us to support us on this podcast. So a shout out to Sledger Soul for giving us some music for today to prepare us for this meeting. All right, I need my host. Hello, Langazulu, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, good. Okay, it's 4
Awesome.
p.m. right now. We are gonna give just 2 more minutes if other people are still gonna join in. And as we give a shout out to some good music in the background. Zecha, I need your camera.
You can't see me.
All right.
I hope I'm visible now.
Yeah, I think we're all here.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for everyone who's here on the Zoom app starting the meeting. The lockdown chat with Nas and Mbuyi. We're on our 3rd episode of meeting, and we're jam-packed with a 4 p.m. meeting with Algorhythmlab and AlgoAtWork. And then we have at 5 p.m. internationals that are in the USA to tell us about the international opportunities that are available even after the lockdown. But for today, welcoming Ulangelihle Zulu and Utsecha Mamsiha as the co-founders and directors of Algorhythmlab, who are a tech company, robotics, and all things of the digital transformation. And as you know, as we are in lockdown, many businesses have been forced to move online, and this company is one of the companies that are in great demand at this point. So we want to find out what is happening, what is going on, what are your thoughts, and what is right now in lockdown. But handing over to my partner to also greet you and welcome you, Mbuyi Silo. Say hi.
Hey, hello everyone. I hope this seems to be okay. It's very early, but I hope everyone is good and welcome, guys, to the show. And in relation to a topic here, there are these words I got from.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute.
I think Umbuso, yeah.
Yeah, Mbuyi.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was just saying, Guti, I'd like to welcome everyone in relation with the topic here, Namhlanje. There are words that I saw in the UN website that says, the crisis has demonstrated that it is impossible for the society to ignore technological advances which are changing business models and also people's lives. So I believe Guti Loko is it's testament to isn't so technology. Yeah.
So handing over Langelihle Zulu, if you could start with the first on the list, the effects on lockdown. how has the COVID-19 lockdown affected you guys as a company so far?
Oh, okay. Well, to some who know that we're running a robotics academy for kids, and the kids visit come through every Fridays and Saturdays. So while with the COVID-19, we obviously cannot continue with the operations, with them coming through to build their projects, and their projects were coming together nicely. Actually, some building helicopters, some building robots for restaurants, some building self-driving cars. So it was such a beauty and an emotional process to see 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, building products that we hoped are going to revolutionize the tech industry, the economical industry, and society as a whole. Because suddenly you've got a bunch of 9-year-olds who are building products that are going to revolutionize the economy and society. So that's what we're looking forward to doing, and them launching these demos, these prototypes. So unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we had to stop the processes, and then try to move the process online, which is not as easy as you'd like to think. So that's one big impact that COVID-19 has had in our business or organization, that is AlgoAtWork.
Right.
Okay. Okay. To add Google. Okay. I think can we hear how has this affected you? Maybe you've got something to add to Muzoganos.
So or mostly what Lango was talking about was on the AlgoAtWork side. Now that is our non-profit. Then we come into the algorithm side where we develop the solutions, softwares, whatsoever. So the first thing is, so the moment you have people moving from home or from work where internet is stable and it's well distributed to home where they're going to be using their SIM cards and their own networks, then the internet just drops. It goes down, and then so now we had to start trying to find solutions. I think we've used almost all SIM cards that you can think of in South Africa. We've tried Rain, which at some point dropped to 0. We've tried Telkom, which also managed to drop to 0 at some point. MTN, same problem. So, Vodacom, where you're looking at the prices of their data, you're like, okay, this one is too much. So that is one of the things, the fact that there's no, now you are struggling with consistency when it comes to internet connection. And what we've managed to see as a company through this is that our service providers, that is our internet service providers, are actually not ready to provide internet as a scale, whether you're talking about Vodacom, whether you're talking about Telkom, whoever that you're talking about, they are not ready to provide internet at a scale. And the moment you have a lot of people coming back and being at one place, then you are able to see that loss, you are able to see that drop, you are able to see that unsustainability. I think the biggest problem, though, that we've found is when it comes to the investment of internet provision is on posh suburban areas. And then as you go down, the investment is okay, it goes down and down and down and down. And then you get to see this effect on companies like ours, which run largely on internet, on any internet companies. When you move to schools and you say schools must move in and then do online schooling, you get to see the effect, because you have Santen being like, yeah, we have internet, and then you go down and you have some rural area and then they like, what is internet? So, those are basically the effects, I think, if I can put them, that one of the biggest effects which you've seen as a company due to COVID-19.
And thank you so much for that response. I would like to hear from Ulanga. So how is the tech industry responding to the COVID-19 pandemic?
One thing that is fascinating about technology as an industry is that anyone can just transform themselves to be what you would call a technology company. So that's what we've been focusing on for the past couple of weeks. And that's what our big interest is at, actually, to sort of transform digitally the organizations as we see them today, or as we saw them pre-COVID-19. And you're talking about churches, for example, which is why we've responded with the solution for virtual churches as a platform, as an African faith-based platform, the only one that you can find on the market right now with the Revival TV, to sort of look at how can we transform using tech, doing as algorithm and many other companies. So that's what our big focus is at, and also looking at educational institutions as well, to say that, yeah, well, universities cannot continue as normal, schools cannot continue as normal, but how can we build systems that are going to allow, you know, education and learning to continue? And that's why also we responded with an e-learning platform that we're still rolling out, or, you know, fine-tuning as well, to ensure that people across the country and across the continent, across the world, actually can have access to education, which is a basic human right, as according to United Nations, as you're quoting United Nations and Mbuyi. So those are all the things that we're looking at in terms of pushing, exploiting this period to push radically or transform radically our society, so that we can expand economic opportunities, open up a whole range of access into the economy for average people such as ourselves, average people in townships and rural areas. So that's where, and also creating new economies, creating new brands, creating new industries. So I think that's where the conversation should be, in order for us to take advantage of this and also rebrand our country as well as our economy.
I kind of think it was, whether you are in a tech space, I think we should not make a mistake of thinking that because a company is in a tech space, or any company that is in a tech space, it means that it did not get hit by a shock. You know, I think all the companies were hit by a shock. All the companies took a little bit of a hit somehow, somehow. Either it was by employees. I remember Facebook was having a problem to say they don't have enough people to actually check content that is being posted so that they can flag it if it needs to be flagged. Call centers around hosting companies. Netflix had to drop video quality across all packages, you know, because the band, not even their bandwidth, they can afford to buy more bandwidth, but the bandwidth which is available across the world, especially in Europe, was not enough to carry their people. Now, if I can explain bandwidth in a simple term, because I think the word is usually used but not understood. Bandwidth is like, imagine a water pipe. If you are using a small diameter water pipe between, say, a town and a rural area, the pressure of water on the other side will probably not reach everyone. You get what I mean? Because the diameter of a pipe is small. Now you need to have huge, very, very huge pipes for as much water as possible to pass through. Now, internet, although we cannot see, also run on the same principle of pipes. In fact, it runs on, when we're talking about fiber is essentially pipes which move around light inside. So the bandwidth, that is, those pipes are not big enough, or we don't have enough of them across the world to can carry the whole world. Now, it is also about distribution. Bandwidth, most of the bandwidth was moved to those to companies. Then people were no longer in companies, people were at home now. So every company, your Amazons, when you say people should only deliver essentials, it means that Amazon kind of take a hit. You get what I mean? Zoom, which we are using, which it saw a surge, an increase in share price, but that doesn't mean that it didn't take a hit. It took a hit in a sense that they had to rethink their security, because people were now playing around it. They had to think about their security because they suddenly had a surge on use, which they had to think about. So the impact was not necessarily positive on all companies. Yes, shareholders were putting money in certain companies because those companies seemed interesting, and in the future or post COVID-19, they seem interesting. But the shock actually caught everyone, even the tech companies, especially the tech companies, because we got to notice, by the way, that our technology is not as good as we think it is. And that is the reality of it. Technology is not as good as it is because I am unable to like test myself for certain things. I could be using my phone, or we should have something. We are digital. So it is those things which we got to notice, I think, as the tech industry during these times.
Mm.
So
Thank you
do
for
you
your
think that
response.
hello?
Nos?
Yes,
Hi,
hi.
Galaxy J. Foko.
Not,
It's I'm on different networks.
not,
Yeah, my internet is really, really bad. I just wanted to get clarity on the issues. Like usekhazile kabanzi ngokuthi it's also with the bandwidth, the internet that is a problem throughout the globe. So these issues that you're facing as a tech company, what I'm noticing, Guti, it's not only South Africa. This is actually a global issue that you say. And so what are the solutions here? Is that it's happened in such a short space of time that there aren't enough resources to fix the problem or enough manpower to come up with solutions. What can be done at this point to, cover up the problems in a very short space of time?
in a short space of time, I would really hate to be a party pooper. But we don't have solutions. Like there is literally no simple solution to this thing. If you have a water system that is damaged in your country or in your area, the only solution is for you to lay new pipes or lay more pipes. Unfortunately, as we see, by the way, we saw also 2 snaps of cables during this time. It is because they were carrying heavy load and they were getting strained. So the solution, the short-term solution, which would take about a week or so, let's say between USA and Africa, USA and Europe, and so on and so forth, is to actually lay more cables. The other solution, what this has taught us is that the 4-5 companies, the 4-5 technology companies, which are big that we have, are not enough. And on top of that, the smaller companies, which are just below your Vodacom and your MTN, they are not many enough also. We need rural economy. We really need to have youngsters, us as youngsters graduating and going back to our rural areas and building towers. We need to do that. And we have the material. It won't be clean. It might be a little bit cheap. It won't be clean, but we need to start thinking about that and thinking about connecting to your CCOMs and then pulling in the internet. If you're building internet on a short or very, very short certificate right there. So we need unemployed youth, or we need youth who have time and energy to start opening companies in this sector. We need them to open internet companies, and they need to be more and more internet companies. They don't have to be as big as your Vodacom and as big as your MTN. Let's think of them as things like community radio stations. Community radio stations are not built to be big. So we kind of need community companies, that is community service providers, internet service providers, those that are going to focus on very, very small areas, and they will focus even less on profit making, but more on service delivery. I think that going forward is one of the long-term solutions which we need to look at. And by the way, we know that unemployment is going to increase after this. So this is one of the things of those things that we need to look at so that we can create jobs, because maintenance, because you need metal, you need all these things, you need. So I think we need to start looking at that, looking at producing community internet service providers, that is things like community radio stations.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for all that information. My follow-up question was going to be on these job creations. What are your predictions on the next jobs coming up after lockdown? And we are breaking into different levels and different stages of alleviating some of the bans that have been in place. But looking in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what are these next jobs that people need to prepare themselves for?
Langa?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of them actually, because there's different reports on this, because there's a lot of research that has been done on the subject on job displacement, or the change within jobs or disruption, whatever you call it. So some would say 50% of the jobs are going to be disrupted. Some say 100%, some say 80%. But what I can tell you is that there's an avalanche of job opportunities that are going to be created, that are being created. But one of the big problems that we have is the shortage of skills. Now, when you're talking about skills, for the 4IR, it goes beyond, skills such as, for example, woodwork, boiler making and things like that. So one of the biggest skills that we are looking for is up here. So the sharpness, upstairs, for a person to be able to think fast, to think critically, to think creatively, and be able to adapt. So that's one big skill that we're going to need going forward. And if people are not going to sharpen that skill, then we're going to have a big problem. So right now, if you're going to look at it, for example, with e-learning platforms, you're now going to need, of course, there's going to be a big demand for programmers. With programmers, you're going to have content creators, you're going to have data analytics, you're going to have data scientists, actually. So so all of those opportunities are then created. But one big question, of course, is the issue of the preparedness of our people. So if you're going to look at a teacher right now at a South African school, on average, is that person prepared to migrate to using platforms such as Zoom, where they now need to have a skill beyond teaching math or teaching English? They now need to be able to navigate around the platform and say, how can I build this platform as a credible platform that is going to be accessible not just to my 20, 60, 100 kids, but that is going to be accessible to kids beyond that. So that's the thinking that is then going to be required. That's a thinking skill that is going to be required from people. So you're going to look at videographers, so which is also a massive opportunity within those people, because if you're talking about e-learning, you need people who are going to be capturing the content and then preparing their content for kids. You're looking at animators, people who can package information in a way that people can understand. For example, government has got a big problem in making sure that people understand the language that government uses, or not just government, but even institutions, private institutions, public institutions have got a big problem. So if you're going to have animators, creative writers who can then package that information and using Facebook, using WhatsApp, so that people can understand information, there's a massive opportunity there. You're looking at artists who are now need to rethink their strategy, because people are no longer buying music, but people are using platforms such as Snapchat, such as TikTok. So the question would be is, how can artists reimagine themselves, as opposed to doing a 3-minute song, but how can they repackage what you call music in such a way that younger audiences can connect with on a platform such as TikTok? So now artists need to reposition themselves and look at themselves and understand and perceive themselves as digital content creators, not necessarily musicians. So those are all the opportunities that are being created every day. Marketers are there. So it's a bunch of the skills that are needed that are going to be created in the next few years. But the question is, as I say, are people going to take advantage, or are people going to cry for jobs and then bend the streets, bend tires in the road, and then call on government for them to create jobs for them?
We need to like also get the idea of the job definition. That is, by the way, one of the things that has been changing. It is about to change even more. I mean, right now, by the way, as we are sitting here, companies are sitting down and they're looking at data to try and weigh who can we work without in the office, who can the company work without at the office, and it succeed. You know, this is also an experiment. We are being experimented on. So we need to start understanding, or we need to kind of move from the idea of looking for jobs and all that, and then move towards the idea of opportunities, looking for opportunities, creating opportunities, and working with opportunities. Now, what that means is, instead of a company, if a company can succeed without you in the office, it means that they don't have to hire you full time. That is an implication. So that is, you automatically become a freelancer. So the moment you are a freelancer, it means that you need to like now start thinking about, how do I make sure that my skills are well shown or well seen? How do I make sure that people actually can react to my skills, and a whole lot of that. So the mindset needs to now change, the mindset of jobs. It has been long time coming. You look at World Economic Forum somewhere in 2016, they were talking about some of these things, but they were like on a down low. Now that companies have tested this, they now know what they require. The other thing is, now companies are getting worried that if by the next 10 years, that is by 2030, we are going to experience at least one or two more of this pandemic. We're going to experience one or two of this. It means that they need to look at solutions which require less of humans. You know,
Okay.
So you kind of, as a person, need to like position yourself around that to say, where do I position myself so that I get opportunities, or I obtain opportunities out of that. It is going to create a lot more skill requirements, but they won't necessarily be jobs. You know, companies will not be on the street trying to get CVs and all that. So that is one of the things one of the places where our ideas need to be, to say, we need to be able to create and capture opportunities for ourselves, and then companies are going to be going to be doing what they do best, which is going after profits and reducing their staff and working with people who are necessary in the office, and then retrenching other people. This retrenchment is going to be showing that, by the way.
Yeah, so just to add on that as we wrap up, is also, I think one of the things that I can say is, we need to be comfortable with the idea of being opportunistic and being capitalistic, which is, of course, a big culture shock, especially for us as Africans, because we come from backgrounds that discourage being opportunistic. But that's one of the big skills that also is going to be required for people to survive the new age, basically, or the new world order, as they call it. Because for you to be able to harness these opportunities, you need to be opportunistic. Because when Zecha is talking about the fact that companies are not going to be dishing out jobs, it means you're gonna have to zoom in into the opportunities that are available within this company, aware of themselves. But in fact, I am willing to demand that you need me and you need the skill set, and you are losing a lot of money in dollars or rands and cents, and this is what I can do for you. So that's the sort of drive that we're going to require from our young people in order for them to capitalize on these opportunities that Saka is talking about.
Finally, sorry about that. The graduates, for graduates, they need to capitalize on small businesses also. We are looking at lawyers, we are looking at finance people, we are looking at graphic designers, we are looking at a lot of people. For example, a lot of small companies cannot afford lawyers, big lawyers. So if you're a graduate and you're working for 5 lawyers and they're each paying you 5,000 or 2,000 or whatever, that means that you can then share your time amongst them. That is called platform thinking. We need to also have that idea of saying platform thinking. So small businesses should be a target surely for graduates. Starting a business is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. Collaboration is now the biggest thing in the industry. We need to collaborate more because we might be starting a business and I'm not good in numbers, but I'm a good lawyer. I'm a damn good lawyer. So if you have numbers, I have the law skills. Let's partner, let's do something. So partnerships are going to be also important.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're really learning a lot here. I have a question here that, okay, since now the obviously traditional methods, some of them are becoming more irrelevant, and also the labor market is also changing. I want to know if there is a need currently for the Department of Basic Education to have transformation in place in terms of the curriculum in order for the children who are currently in school to be ready for the future in terms of the jobs that will be there by that time. So is there a need for our government or the Department of Basic Education to enforce new transformations in terms of the curriculum?
Yeah, there's a big one, and that's possibly, in fact, that's the reason why we've got a robotics academy. The robotics academy is we're piloting an education model for the future. That's what it's about, because we of course for the number of years previously we sort of identified the big gap that is there in South Africa, because one of the reasons why young people are not geared to take advantage of the economic opportunities that are out there is because of the content within education. So definitely there's no debate around that issue, because our education system is an education system for the all. So it's a 2IR type of approach that government has when it comes to education. And hence you are seeing a lot of people who are coming out of universities, people who've got degrees, people who've got honors, people who've got masters, they're out there in the streets picketing and say, hi, hashtag, hi, I graduate. So that is a reflection of the content that they're absorbing within education. So definitely we need transformation. We need to recognize creative skills, for example, because for the longest of time, also with this new, also with this current education system where it sort of undermines talent, it undermines creativity, it undermines originality, it undermines critical thinking, which are all the skills that are needed for people to thrive in the future or in the future workplace. So definitely we need to transform education as in yesterday, but with hopefully COVID-19 is going to be that catalyst that government needed for them to speed up the process of change and transformation within the curriculum.
Okay, thank you so much, Lang, for that. Okay,
yeah, gentlemen, we're running out of time. We only have just about 1 minute. Any closing remarks from Zecha, please?
For me, I think everyone who is out there, who is alive, agility, agility, agility. The ability to change as and when it is required is very important. You need to change in a snap of a finger. That is very important in this age and time.
Thank you very much.
That's all from me.
Langa.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, you know, for this massive opportunity. We're so looking forward to it. Thank you so much for reaching out and sort of recognizing us and our value that we can bring to this whole movement. And by the way, massive shout out to you guys for such a beautiful movement. May you continue pushing this post-lockdown, and all the best for the future.
You.
Yes,